What is up, Overwatch community? My name is Trips, and welcome back to another episode of Watchpoint. With me on the cast this week, once again, we have Yiska.
Hey.
And Vulture.
Hello.
And most of the cast this week is going to be talking about the Halloween update that was just dropped on Tuesday, and a little bit of the tournament scene right now, and some Blizzcon schedules that got dropped. And that's going to be kind of an open format for this cast, not too much that I wanted to talk about because I love the update. I want to focus a lot on the update this week. Is there anything big as far as meta goes with the little patch that dropped that you guys have noticed at all? Because I guess we could cover we talked about a little bit about the patch on the PTR, but it's actually out now, so.
I guess the Ana change didn't seem too big as far as her ult goes, ult charge. I was kind of expecting a bigger change, but the only change I noticed is I can't ult, like dry ult a Reaper without his Death Blossom. Like before I could, just charge up on a Reinhardt, then have ult, and then throw it on a Reaper, and he can go in without Death Blossom. Yep. And the timing's a little bit later, so it's kind of more synced up with Death Blossom, I guess. That's the only change. The grenade is pretty big. Seems to be quite the stuff for Zenyatta ults.
Okay. Just to interject, I'm sorry. For the people who don't know or haven't been paying attention too much, Ana's Nano Boost, I just have called it that. Her ultimate cost has been increased by 20%, so it's slower, or I guess it technically costs more. And her biotic grenade, the radius got increased from 3 to 4 meters. Widow's Kiss, her scoping animation is reduced from 0.5 seconds to 0.33 seconds. And Riptire, the ability now activates more quickly. Those are the baseline changes other than some spectator stuff. And you can actually, we talked about this last week. Now you can rejoin a match after 2 minutes I'm sorry, hold on. I'm speaking too fast. Teammates of a disconnected player can now exit the match after 2 minutes. I thought I read something in here about reconnection. You guys can talk. I swear I read something in here about it, but continue.
Vulture, what do you think about the Junkrat ultimate change?
It's definitely needed. I don't think he's back in the meta, though. I don't know. There's Reaper seems to do a better job at control, I guess, than Junkrat. And plus, the splash is a problem for, like, Ana. Enemy Anas, you know what I mean? They can charge up off of his bullshit spam. So, but the the sped up animation is nice. I haven't really used him because I don't think he's very viable at the moment, but it's something he definitely needed.
Yeah, there was this guy that that plays at 4K MMR in the US that only plays Junkrat.
Yeah,
and obviously there's some some streamers have voiced some frustration with him for only playing Junkrat, but he had this AMA on the subreddit on the competitive Overwatch thing, and he was basically explaining that he always tries to go for the backline, and then obviously the argument also was brought up that he charges Ana ults, and he said that he almost only tries to hit actual targets, so not only Reinhardt shields, when he knows he has a Genji that follows up and then gets an easy kill. Yeah. And that's how he is able to get into the backline, also, using his grenade, which makes it easier to even access the backline, And then he tries to also be more supportive. So he would sometimes, if he doesn't have this Genji to go deep, he would just, supportively use his grenade, for instance, to maybe peel people off his healers or something. It was quite interesting to see. And I mean, 4K, it's not like tremendously good, but for playing one character that's supposed to be pretty shitty, also you have to realize he is also playing offense with this. Then logically, plays nothing else.
4K, man, how is that not tremendously good? I mean, you're not top 500 maybe, but
it's solid.
Yeah.
I guess in this meta, a lot of the comps can't deal too well with flanking type scenarios, so I could see that. I don't know, the whole landing the pills exactly and avoiding splash in most instances. That sounds really friggin' fiddly. Maybe I'd have to see this guy play. I'm actually interested to see who this guy is.
Do you know what game? If he came from another game, because the only thing I can think of that's like
TF2,
that. Yeah.
He was a demo man. I
There you
think
go.
even.
Yeah. Other than that, like the Widow change really didn't do anything. I haven't really seen other than people trying to be like, the Counter-Strike snipers. Not too much Widow. And people are saying that the Ana change, they have, I mean, obviously that's to flesh it out, but the Biotic Grenade actually even helped her a little bit, and the alt charge kind of balanced. It didn't really hurt her.
Yeah.
I wonder how much it really affects the competitive scene,
Mhm.
rather than the solo queue experience, because I think even in solo queue it was even easier to get an ultimate up twice as fast as your teammates as it is in competitive matches. And what I mean by this is that you almost always were able to put two ultimates on a, like, just as Valsha said, put one on the Reinhardt, put one on the Reaper, or whatever, not necessarily always on the Reinhardt, but you always had an ult up when the Reaper blossoms, and you could ult someone in between.
Yeah.
So now that is probably not possible anymore, right? You kind of need to sync it only with the Death Blossom. But that is what happened in competitive play anyway, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you would situationally put it on other targets than the Reaper, but your end goal was to get the Beyblade, which almost ensures your team fight win. And now that this hasn't really changed, you then saw also Anna's obviously sitting on the ultimates much more, because you want to, in solo queue, there are situations where you're like, maybe we push with 4 people into 6 and we still win the fight. This is hard to imagine working in competitive matches. So Anna's, and obviously because of ult advantages and everything, people hold on to the Anna ult more and then really only use it on the Reaper. So this was almost inconsequential to that combo. And now you actually buffed the grenade. So some people actually made the argument that Panda is even stronger now, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Other than a little bit of meta stuff, the meat and potatoes of this week really is it's a lot of cosmetics, I know, but it's the Halloween update. The changes, obviously the skins, the changes to Hollywood, which I thought was super cool. And I have, a case to fight with Blizzard in a second. And the PvE map, besides Lucio Ball, we haven't seen a Brawl like this at all. Especially, this is nothing near Lucio Ball. Have you guys both played it, first of all?
Yes.
Okay, because the extra voice acting, the animations, the mechanics that have to be put into it, and the coding, everything like that, this Brawl feels like an actual, separate game mode. Like, they could keep this in the game and people would play it from time to time. It might fall out of favor after a while, but it's something that I'm glad they're keeping around for a few weeks, and it's not just going to fall away. And a lot of people are actually talking about how, after seeing this, they're actually kind of mad that there's not missions or something, more PvE focused, because that was the big complaint when the game first came out was, oh, you're paying $40 for a game that's just multiplayer. However, we had this discussion already. That's not something we need to discuss again. But it's the what if. Like, what if they added more PvE stuff like this, for either... A lot of people are saying it's a good thing to, warm up your aim if you main one of those 4 characters. Do you guys like it? Do you think it's niche? Do you think it's something that if they introduce more stuff like this, you would enjoy?
Initially, I liked it quite a bit. It actually kind of blew me away with the kind of production value they gave for it. The art and the voiceover and the overall look was definitely like Monster Madness, like old movie style, which I dug, and that definitely spoke to me and got me actually in the mood to play some like PvE type stuff for about 2.5 to 3 hours. So I'd rather play with my team than do that, but if no one's on, I could see playing a few rounds of that just for fun. It was definitely fun as far as the game goes. Um, if they expand this, I have no problem with that as long as if like other areas of the game don't get neglected, like more PvP focused areas. But I assume they have probably different people working on that and PvP areas.
Yeah, I thought I also thought it was quite fun. Also, they kind of took an interesting turn, or made an interesting decision in the sense that, okay, there's content to play. You have 3 game modes, and then you even compete against other people on a global ladder, and that kind of gives it a little more, competition, and also more reason to play after, beating the hardest mode, for instance. Yeah. Right. I also found it quite interesting how much it reminded me sort of Borderlands, in the sense that, okay, maybe not the game mode, but how it was presented. Also, like these introductions, I think Blizzard has recently just, found out that these are kind of awesome in games. And this is quite Borderlands-y, I think, that you have these introductions to these characters. They also have it in WoW and the new Legion quests. So I think that this is actually quite awesome. They go like in slow motion, then, move the camera just a little bit while having the name next to it. I think the first time I was quite, blown away by the production value. I think after a while, kind of gets stale that you have to go through all the, same storytelling again and again.
Yeah.
And I guess I get why it is, but in the future, if this was somehow skippable or something, that would probably be preferable.
Be interesting to see. I kind of have a feeling that this is kind of like an intro to a more broad PvE type thing they want to implement, and this might be just testing the waters, see how it works, see what people think about it, and I'm kind of interested to see what they come up with. Reminds me quite a bit of like Man vs. Machine in TF2.
How was that? Because I remember that coming out, but I never played it.
A lot of people loved it. I couldn't stand it really. It never really grew on me. But
did you ever play anything like Nazi Zombies or Horde mode in Halo or anything like that?
I probably played Horde mode on Halo. Probably. That was quite a while ago. Mm-hmm. But yeah, just random like source based like mods and stuff. There's a lot that are out there that are similar to this that I played. That's cool. I'd like to see more come out and see if they can make something new from it, because this is pretty. What they've got here is somewhat standard. They have the mobs that injure, protect an area, kind of like a was the game not Fortress, tower defense type game. It's kind of like that, but with bosses. So I don't know. I'd like to see what else they can come up with this.
I thought it was super cool. I loved it. But yeah, it does fall off. It is very niche. It's not like I'm gonna go into Overwatch and be like, I'm gonna load up a game of, I don't even remember the name, Junkenstein's Revenge. But the first time, like you guys are saying, I was like, holy crap, they put a lot of work into this. And this is what I've been trying to push week in and week out as far as the brawls go. I do not care. Like, I think probably for a good 3 or 4 weeks, I didn't even touch Brawl. Not even once, like, oh, I'm just going to warm up, or, oh, I'm just going to, it's the end of the night, I'm just going to fool around type deal. It was just something that I completely ignored. If they do more stuff like this, even Lucio Ball was a shitty game mode, but the idea of like not making it just Overwatch with like one different mechanic, make it completely different, would really, really draw me into it. And I hope they don't just do more tower defense though. I hope they broaden, I don't know, something.
I hope
it.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just.
I hope they add like better rewards for winning it on the hard mode, or the different ways. Like, it's kind of neat. What are they, sprays now, or icons are the rewards? I'd like to see some skins. That'd be awesome. That's something that got a lot of people in TF2 super excited. You get unlockables through it, and people really went like nuts for that game mode just for that reason.
Even just a loot, like a free loot box, how they do in Hearthstone. If you beat the weekly brawl, you get a free loot box. Cool. That's, I mean, something, you'd go every week, earn your weekly loot box, and you'd get people playing the game. Maybe 60% of the people might not stick around, but that extra 40% of the people, you're getting to play an extra bit of your game mode. And I think they could do much more. I mean, this really impressed me, and I have to say this is definitely this was well worth the wait. It was a good game mode. I liked it. A bit more on the normal competitive side, Hollywood. I didn't play Hollywood because of the stupid map rotation, which I won't get into. But I basically just didn't run into it until like yesterday, and I first saw it, and it blew me away. It was awesome. The darken. It's kind of weird though, because it kind of changes the game a bit up, because not that you can't see as well, but different characters blend into different areas of the map or things like that. It just changed a little bit. But the big thing, Blizzard, you changed the car in the Hollywood Arch to like a bale of hay. How come the payload didn't change, Blizzard? How come we didn't get a pumpkin payload? All right, that's
a hearse.
Yeah, or a hearse or something. Like when we were first talking about payload skins, man, you came this close. You came this close to making my day. But that's cool. I mean, like Dota and League and stuff, and I don't know if CS:GO or I know TF2 did, obviously, but does CS:GO ever do holiday maps or anything like that, or are they all just pretty vanilla?
It's like chickens have little hats and shit.
What?
Yeah, and then the Zeus, I guess, makes the party like the these almost trumpets things. I don't know what they're called, Yeah. This sound, and it's like, it's mostly annoying, really. You feel even more inclined to kill these stupid ass chickens. But yeah.
But now to the skins. Did you guys get any good skins? Is there ones that you like? Is there anyone that you hate?
I bought the Zenyatta and Ana skins. They're pretty cool. Definitely like both of those skins are pretty cool just for being recolors. They did a good job for the recolor. The Reaper skin's pretty sick too. Definitely some teammates getting excited about the Reaper skin.
Yeah, and also there was a few characters that it didn't look like they advertised it too much, but a few characters got new highlight intros. Reaper, Genji, and May. Oh yeah, her ghost, her little ghost thing. I think all in all, the artwork is super cool. It really gave me just a little bit of a little bite size more to tweak my interest back into the game a bit. Not that I was getting bored, but I just a little bit of fun. I'm kind of sad that Sombra didn't come out. Although, to be real, having both Halloween and Sombra launch would mean that Blizzard was kind of I really don't know for a better term than this, but they're giving it all they got. They're blowing their load in 1 week was the horrible term that I was going to use, but they had.
I love how you tried to dance around it and found like an alternative phrase, but it just wouldn't work.
It wouldn't work, no. But they said one thing a month. So this is October. We probably won't see Sombra till BlizzCon, November.
I remember
was what I'm guessing.
When they released Ana, I might be misremembering, but I thought the Summer Games was going on when they released Ana. I remember well, they didn't release her. They put her on the PTR while the Summer Games was going on, if I remember right. And I remember not getting a lot of Summer Game boxes because I was just playing a lot of PTR. I'm guessing maybe they'll do that here.
I wonder, there's still, this site, there's a moment in crime. And I just looked it up. It's currently at 93%. So, I mean, I think, I don't know how much it goes up a day. It should be not more than 10 days. I wonder if this, little mini game then continues for a while until she's released, or if that's the actual release date. Because there's still this lingering suspicion in my mind that maybe we missed something and didn't solve the puzzle, and we had to do something for this timer to tick down more quickly, for instance. So they would just reveal her as soon as we, uncover the secret or something, right? I mean, this is obviously this. If it was like that, that would be super badass. While at the same time, kind of, I'm not bashing the smart people of the community, but it would suck if we missed something and that didn't do the thing.
Yeah.
Well, at the same time, also that I actually liked the mini game around it. I just think it's kind of lame that this counter goes down so slowly and so predictably and nothing else has happened. That this just came all to a halt. I think they could have maybe started this a little later then, and had it more condensed, made it more like, okay, we actually have an influence on this.
Did you guys hear any of the predictions as far as that the whole Sombra leak with the picture and all that was actually a marketing scheme by Blizzard to say it was a leak because she's a hacker and stuff like that? I mean, that's a big super meta theory, but
that would be fun, but I don't know.
I think the whole leak thing. There's two arguments, or I would make for and against the theory, but the first one is Blizzard is a pretty big company, so it is not impossible that one of the employees would leak something,
Yeah.
Then I would expect him to be found out and fired fairly quickly. It shouldn't be too hard to identify the leak. But at the same time, does stuff like this really leak like this? Is it really involuntarily happening, or is I think it is quite coordinated and always has been, and I don't know, Blizzard has been in this, PC game making business a while, so I don't think that they would necessarily, make it so that people could get to the content that will come up in the future through any, means that would not involve the hacker to be in the building,
Yeah.
So
if I remember right, this wasn't the source some sort of Xbox or console type site, not site, just promo image. So
that was Halloween. Halloween was the Xbox marketplace releasing loot boxes. The Sombra leak was a article that was drafted for the company to be sent out to give them information, and it was hosted on an internal Blizzard URL.
Okay.
And someone got this internal Blizzard URL. Which sounds like a big setup. But another thing is that there's a big idea that I can't remember where I heard it. I think I heard it on a different podcast or something. But the idea behind Sombra is that she has stealth. She can turn off enemy health packs, and her ultimate is a global mute, kind of like Silencer if anyone's played Dota. But it's a global mute that would turn off all abilities and ultimates for 4 or 5 seconds.
Okay. What's enemy health packs?
The ones that are on the ground? Those would shut off.
In their area, or just any. Okay.
So they wouldn't be pick-upable by the enemies, but allies could still?
Yes. I don't know that determination exactly, but...
Okay. Would that be that big of a deal? Normally you don't even want... ideally you don't want your people to run over health packs. It's more like a last resort kind of play, because you want your healers to load up. If you run over a health pack, nobody's getting that percentage, right? So, would it be... I wonder if there's positions where your ability to hold the position really depends on the med pack being there. It's hard to... Nothing comes to mind, really.
Yeah, the only one is maybe in the beginning. I can't think of anyone else that has that many health packs. But in the point A for Volskaya Industries, there's a small health pack in the house, and then the large health pack in the warehouse. That's the only place that has like really like big health packs right next to it. Other than maybe point B, there's a health pack underneath the bridge, and shit. I can't even think of the Egyptian map's name right now.
Anubis.
Yeah, Anubis. There we go. But other than that,
yeah, Anubis, second point. You know, from the defender's perspective, right side, the tunnel thing. I think that map pack helped me quite some. Yeah.
But I mean, you're right. It's mainly, you know, they don't want you healing unless you're, you know, soaking up a heal from either like a 76, which doesn't really happen that much, or a Mercy and all the healers. But as like a assassin type is like just a normal ability. If you see someone running towards a health pack and you use it, you basically win, because if they don't get the health pack and you get the health pack instead, it's a, you know, higher health pool. That's obviously just all speculation, but it sounds like okay. The only thing that kind of is weird to me is the ultimate being a global mute, and then you just go in with your entire team for 4 seconds. You could wipe the entire team.
Yeah.
I mean, if you do Zarya ult into mute, they can't Zenyatta, they can't drop the B, they can't do nothing.
You could combo it with a lot of stuff like Genji. I mean, the main stuff that shuts down Genji is crowd control or Zen ult. So that would make Genji ult pretty powerful. Yeah, that's pretty sick.
Would it shut down already used ultimates?
No, it's. I'm guessing you haven't played Dota, but it's a silence effect. It's like if you were to use it, anything that's already active is already active, obviously. But you are no longer able to push any of your abilities.
Huh. I guess then it would be very, very important to track the ultimate charge of Sombra. You know, like you would dedicate one person, because that really fucks with how the ult economy currently works, right? Okay, maybe you're up some ultimates, but if Sombra has it, like, you better be running for these 4 or 5 seconds. Otherwise, you still risk losing the team fight, even though you didn't do anything really wrong before. It might. Well, it really depends how fast the charge rate is, right? That really, you know, determines how generally strong the ultimate is. If you can like disrupt every second ultimate cycle, would it have to be? Would it have to be slower than the average ultimate?
That's a pretty powerful ultimate.
Yeah,
I think it would have to charge something. I'm trying to think of another ultimate that charges slowly, but I don't even know.
Zarya ult charges somewhat slowly, or tank ult. Well, Zarya ult.
Yeah.
Okay. But other than that, I think my favorite skin before we close out the Halloween stuff is easily either Frankenstein's Monster or Coldheart. The Junkrat skin is also super cool. And the Pharah skin, just because I like purple. But it's not. The Pharah and Demon Hanzo are just like recolors. They're not anything super special, but they're cool. I like them. Okay.
Yep.
Next up is, we can do APAC last. The Blizzard schedule was released, I think, actually, today on. I'm just going off of Glemda once again, our lovely website that we use here. Thanks to these people giving us news. The Overwatch World Cup from October 29th to the 5th is the dates for it. And there is a couple of sessions, what's new, art and design going on. And these are actually the times for if you're watching at home live or if you're at the event, obviously. So they do have different panels for new heroes, maps, brawls, gameplay features. Art and design, I think, is just going to be actually the information on what their, inspirations are and how they go through their processes and things like that. They have a panel for the animated shorts, the World Cup semifinals and semifinal 2 will be going on the first couple days. What else do we have here? And there is a voice actors stage, the meeting of the minds of Overwatch, and introduce you to the actors from across the globe who bring our heroes from Overwatch to life. So I think we're going to get it's obvious. This might be, just redundant saying this, but we're most likely going to get a huge drop of information here from BlizzCon itself. I don't know how much they're going to release, because I know Blizzard has been burned in the past from saying like, oh, we're going to do A, B, C, and D. And then by the time they get to like B and C, things have changed and they've kind of stopped doing we're going to excite you guys. They're just going to be like super vague. So I hope that doesn't happen. Is there anything that you guys expect to hear about or that you want them to talk about? Because I know one of the big things for me is a replay system, spectator, like improvements on spectator client. A little bit more as far as maps go, because I feel like we're getting a little bit stale on maps.
I'd like to see at least a teaser or some concept of a new game mode. That's what I'd like to see.
That's getting really stale at this point, if I have to pick something.
That I'm pretty sure if Sombra info isn't released by then, we'll get it then. Maybe even get. I bet you there'll be at least maps. We'll at least get like 1 or 2 new maps to look at.
Yeah. That's also, like, it feels quite unlikely that Sombra is going to be released before BlizzCon. It's just, that would be this one. If they're saying our heroes are our main content, so to speak, for Overwatch, then a new hero would probably be, the thing you would present there. Yeah. And then I kind of also see them, reveal her in a kind of cool way where, like, maybe in the main hall, all the lights shut down, like she hacked into the system and now she's revealing herself or something.
Yeah.
That's likely to happen. I think I wonder what they could release simply because I don't want Jeff to have lied to us, man. Like in his developer updates, I feel like we already know a lot what's going on behind the scenes in terms of what they're developing. Not that this is anything that common sense wouldn't have told you in the first place, but I wonder what other content they could possibly introduce. Maybe they are going to talk about more interesting brawls or something, or I don't know. Like it feels like a hard, because every game is obviously pressed to introduce some sort of content, like huge thing that they can then reveal at BlizzCon. And whenever your Blizzard game doesn't have this, boom and new thing and you can look forward to that, you almost feel kind of upset most of the time. Yeah. Right? I always remember this about BlizzCon where it's like, no huge introduction for WoW, like some stupid mount. I guess the game is dying 6 years later, Well,
I'm hoping that they pull what they did last year and they just drop 3 characters and like 3 maps and some, ridiculous, because if you think about it, throughout beta, which I guess technically doesn't count, throughout beta we got, 3 new characters, we got a whole new game mode, a couple of new maps for the other game modes. We got ranked mode. We have Brawl. We had all these things, and I don't want that, like, the stream of new stuff to slowly, diminish over time. But I feel like it would be worth it if it slowly diminishes, if they're just like, here's all this stuff that you guys can have for November. December is probably going to be Christmas. January might be some skins. And then you're not going to get anything new till maybe Easter. so like a springtime event or harvest, or not harvest, that's now, some type of spring event or something like that. If they drop a lot of content on BlizzCon, it's going to be enough for the community to eat up, because this Halloween stuff, it's nice, it's cool. It gave a little bit, like, oh, hey, I'm gonna, like, I bought way too many boxes. I shouldn't have, but I did, and it was fun for me. But now what? Now it's back to the same. There's a sweet Brawl, but after the end of Halloween in 3 weeks, it's just gonna go back to be like, okay, I'm gonna, keep pounding my head into the season ranking, which I have been. Need some type of like shakeup, some big, especially if they release Sombra and maybe another map. There's just gonna be minds blown. So many things could change.
Yeah. Although at this point, Anna feels like she's been in the game forever. Like, she doesn't feel new anymore. She's solidified in the meta. She's had a patch already, or quite a few balance patches if you count the PTR.
Mm-hmm.
So she doesn't feel new at this point. And I think even if they did 3 characters, after a couple months, things would feel as if they always have, I guess. I don't know. Plus, 3 characters might be quite the bomb on like the competitive scene and just competitive meta overall. Things might just look really wacky for a while, and I'd rather just have 1 or 2 heroes and then balance those as they come out. Because when Anna hit, she fucked up the meta pretty hard. She still kind of does, or is going to. So,
I mean, how new is Beyblade? I mean, not that it wasn't ever done, but it's like solidified its place now into an actual comp. And I mean, it's still, people are still changing how they use different characters. Shooting for 3 is, you're right, a complete, it would cut the game in half basically. But I think, like you said, 1 to 2 characters, but I'm almost more so on a map, because Sombra is almost guaranteed. I would say 80-90% sure that we're going to get her at BlizzCon. What I'm hoping for is the map more so, or game mode rather. Yeah,
me too.
Payload race. Honestly, it's so similar. It's not anything extreme out of the ball. Payload race would be cool.
I wonder if this argument that people always present of there only being one objective, and therefore Overwatch, always being about these big team fights, and therefore not being that presentable, especially as an esport. I wonder if that really holds up. I feel like even if were 2 equally important objectives, you would have to split screen so much in order to, the action is so quick. You would miss a ton of plays, I feel like, unless you go split screen, which is really...
With Payload Race, there's always the, you start off separate and you go and so forth, but then the point of it is to cross paths, and you continuously go, payloads go right next to each other, and payloads go away, and then they overlap, and then they're right next to each other at the end, either on an elevator or something like that. And this is all based off of TF2, obviously. But
even in I never liked payload race in TF2 very much, because often there was if the team got a good hold at a choke, there was 2 or 3 people that were the people that just pushed the payload, and you never saw them ever again, and they never saw any action. They were just freaking bots on a payload. So
yeah, that's true.
I would still like to see something that Vulture actually suggested very early in beta, when we talked about it, where I think you said that you wanted some sort of objective that, I think we're even talking about ult charge or something. Yeah. Where it's like a secondary objective you go to that would power your attack in some considerable way. Right now, this is kind of, these map positions that you pass because of the chokes. Okay, it feels rewarding to get the positioning and everything, but there's nothing, definitive that, okay, I actually captured part of this map now, and now I get this benefit other than, innate, high ground advantage or something, right? And if they had something on these new maps where there's secondary objectives that don't directly contribute to you winning the main, or if it was something like, okay, take the second objective and it gives me like half the points of the main objectives. I don't want that as much as I want, the second objective to be something that really increases your chances of getting the first objective, and then it being tactical. For instance, I guess. In Battle Riot, there's this orb in the middle, and you're not really constantly contesting for the orb, but it's like, okay, if I take this now, this is actually a pretty big advantage I got for my team, and the same is true for every MOBA, right? There's these, it's either Creek camps, then obviously there's Baron or Roshan, or Dragon, exactly. Right, these small advantages that then give you a buff or something for a specific amount of time, or always. I think this would kind of help paint a clearer story of these games, and would also help string people along, because you could then say, oh, they got that thing. Now there's something tangible they gained from being there. Like, for instance, high ground advantage and everything really only feels as something that is great if you really understand the game, right? Because you have been in these situations where you're thinking like, this is kind of, now I can shoot from up here, can exploit certain angles, I'm safer. This is you need to be an adept player to get these advantages then, to just understand them. So I would love to see something like that in these maps.
Would you not argue, though, that would slow the game down? Because imagine, if you took, I'll say Here's the Storm or League of Legends, either one. If you took those and you removed the jungle from it, you have Battle Riot. If you took, Overwatch and you added a jungle to it, I feel like it's going to slow it down.
Maybe.
Yeah.
If anybody played Block and Load, there's a similar element, and that's a shooter game, and basically like stuff spawns on the map in certain areas that give you a resource to better win. I guess in this case, the resource could probably be something along the line of ultimates, and that would inherently slow down the game because you're not going to be getting, big ultimate fights all the time. But I think that might be a good thing, in my opinion. Ultimates are, this game is borderline like a wizard game at this point, with spells that you cast that do things. It's not as much of a shooter as I'd like, and it's not so much the speed, it's just that ultimates are just so important. They're like a vital resource to win fights, and I don't know, slowing that down would make me happy, quite happy. As for like just general gameplay, I don't think it would slow down because you have fast time to kill, fast characters, powerful characters that can kill quickly. So, as far as that goes, fights would be pretty fast-paced still.
Okay.
Like, imagine something like you had different alleys or flanking options, and then these flankers would also have to have 1v1s, or you would have to rotate well. And then there's this item that just subtracts 20% ult charge from all the enemy team if you pick it up. Now, you didn't win the main objective, right? But you came closer. You're now up in the ult economy, for instance, and you're also making ults less frequent by doing that. You're kind of, granted, slowing it down, but like watching these OGN games, there's some of the best production we have in esports, and it happened quite often that they try to do like this replay of last awesome play. And it really cuts into the new play already. Like you're like, dude, show me the little window. I don't want to split screen this. Like, show me what's happening now. This is obviously this is a It was an awesome play, and I would like to watch it, but there's just no time. Feel like I'm missing something.
Yeah.
And I wonder if this will hurt Overwatch if it isn't, if there is no time to kind of talk about the things. Because if you look at the recent trends in esport, like, for instance, a game like Hearthstone is as popular as it is because there's time to talk.
Well,
Like,
the
even-
game is super casual. I mean, not casual in...
Yeah,
It
is.
That's why a lot of people stream it. It's because they can literally just sit there. They do, 1 to maybe 5 cards at a time, and then you sit there, and you have tons of time to talk.
Yes.
But I get what you're saying, and that's where most of the esports comes from. I mean, I don't know much about StarCraft, so please stop me if I'm saying things wrong. But like, those games are long for the most part, right? Like 20 minutes to 40-minute games.
Yeah.
I would say
So you have time to evaluate the economy and talk about what build order they're
Yeah.
doing and
Yes.
things like that. The same thing with League, the same thing with Dota. It's that, there is a downtime technically of people farming jungles and people doing this and evaluating the team comps and what items they're going and things like that. Whereas, honestly, I don't watch too much Counter-Strike or any other FPS for that matter, but are they all fast, or is there downtime to talk in Counter-Strike and stuff?
Well, there is downtime just forced by rounds. So if sometimes rounds are slow and teams play like the clock. There was one team, Navi, that really played the clock, and you had as a commentator, you just had a minute to talk because they wouldn't break into the side unless they felt they had all the knowledge, and then they collapsed onto one side. But just even the most aggressive teams are quite easy to cast simply because if the last person dies, then there's, I don't know the exact values, but there's like a 5 to 10 second window until the new round starts, and then die time starts up. So there's again, I think 10 seconds, and then there's more time till people are actually in position. And they aren't just rushing, and it's quite predictable what's going to happen, right? You kind of get the general strategy, or not general strategy, but the broad strokes. Okay, are they buying? Are they, or are they just going to eco waste onto one spot? And then it's not even that important to talk about. If they're ecoing and just running into a side, getting shot or something, or there's no action, and you have time to talk about these things, and these downtimes really don't happen that much in Overwatch. I feel like. The only when is the first downtime you get is, for instance, on a payload map, is when the first site is over, right?
Yeah, when King's Row garage door opens, that takes 6 years. That's pretty much the only one.
There's 2 other criticisms of Overwatch that a new game mode could address. One is like individual skill isn't as apparent for a lot of classes. Like you get it's really easy to see a Genji team wipe, but if you have some like situational map control and tactics, you could have a situation where a DPS and a flex healer are in a situation, and maybe the flex healer frags out or gets clutch. Something that you wouldn't see in a team fight, really. That could be an example, or just good positioning, like for a single player just holding down an area. So there's that. Then there's also the issue right now with kind of how snowbally the game can get. So if you lose your first fight, you're probably going to lose your second fight, and possibly third if the opponent is smart about their ults. So for a long time, if you're not getting kills and you're just feeding, there's no way you can make headway just because of how ults work. So a lot of times games kind of get pretty stompy until like the ult timer ticks enough on the other team that it kind of like gives them like the charity ult or whatever, and then they can get some work done off of that. I think some different game mode could mess with how that works. So let's say like you make a push into a team that's defending, they wipe you, they have ults. Maybe you could have the option to go to a second spot to reset ults, or give yourself an ult. It would be a tactical decision at that point.
Yeah. Are you guys completely set on buffs? Is the secondary objective,
Well,
or what if it was something along the lines of some type of, this is going to be completely bare bones, but like some type of buttons that you had to hit that would open up a secondary path or something like that?
I don't know. Paths, I'm not too keen on. That could be hit or miss. I like the idea of a resource of some sort to play with.
Okay.
That I really like. It would really depend on the map, like what would open it up. I don't know. Possibly, possibly not. I guess would be my answer to that.
Do you think the only resource to work with is ult charge?
Well, in this game, the resource is ultimate right now. Is
Yeah.
charge.
What about shields or something like that? Do you think that would
Um,
make certain people? I mean, not that Torbjorn and Symmetra are very potent right now, but
like, what do you mean, like health? Like, give someone like 50 HP shield, something like that, if they pick
yeah,
something up? Yeah,
yeah,
maybe. That would be a little bit Quake-like, which kind of like tickles my fancy, so I'd kind of like that.
yeah. Like
But,
flankers have to go do some objective and they get shields, so that if they flank the back line, they have more defense.
yeah,
They're able to actually do something.
it is a little dangerous, though, because it could really make it could make the meta quite stale. Like, give Tracer the shield is like equals no brainer on like some maps, like
Yeah.
that's what you do, and then maybe there's no way to counter that, or maybe there just isn't a way to counter it, or maybe it is interesting. Maybe like it becomes about the counter, like the match on the side becomes about the Tracer trying to get the shield.
Because
that might
then
be interesting.
wouldn't you have like the defense? Oh, they captured point A. That means the secondary objective is active, so we have to send out defenders to the secondary objective, make sure Tracer doesn't get it.
Yeah.
That type of deal.
Yeah, on second thought, I kind of like that. That would be some pretty interesting play like that.
That, and you also have to consider that if you look at almost every other sport, there's always these certain situations where star players, where you can clearly outline, okay, this play is what the star player made, awesome, and then it really impacted the game. Now, I don't feel that if a Reaper Beyblades, right?
Mm.
I don't have the feeling that, like, I know casters are trying to hype this shit up, like, Butts is the best Reaper. Doesn't mean anything to me, man. He's just Beyblading as the rest of us with very little nuance, and really not, what you do outside of that, okay, fine. What these second objectives would do is force these 1v1 or even 2v2 situations. We could say, okay, maybe the team is not a 6v6 teamfight team, but they're flankers. They win these 1v1s and they get the advantage based on that. And they're like the star players, right?
Yeah.
Unless someone is just astronomically better than the opponent and it's just starting on them, like we're probably going to talk about soon, is, for instance, against Reunited, like the Genji just going off on Reunited and just, dominating them. Unless this happens, which it really shouldn't, because you ideally want equally skilled teams, or, or I guess I wonder how high the skill ceiling really is that this is allowed to happen frequently in Overwatch. Then, these star players, it's hard to tell their story. And if they were continuously, you had something where you could say, oh yeah, he keeps dominating this guy on the flank, and they get a continuous advantage because of him, that would be something, that is graspable for the average viewer, I think.
Yeah. There is some like interesting skill as far as like strategy goes currently, like the picks. That's interesting, but it's not really something you can convey to a viewer. You can't say like this team is good because they have this comp which deals with this, or I don't know. That's not really something that speaks to a lot of viewers. They kind of expect the mechanical skill when they're looking at first person view, mechanical skill for someone to frag to kind of get excited about. I mean, like in football, you get excited about, like, the playmakers. You don't get excited about, like, the coach, typically.
Yeah.
I mean, it kind of tells you something, just real quick, that the biggest clip of the entire tournament was a fucking May wall boost on King's Row with a Bastion that was allowed to get onto a high ledge. Like, this was the moment. People are longing, you know, for these innovative plays, and are just seeing death balls which they can't comprehend. I'm not saying that these death balls are simplistic in the way that teams have to approach them, and they're quite challenging, obviously, to solve for these teams. I'm saying it's hard to understand for the average viewer what's actually going on and where the brilliance is. They all just see, you know, like, I think through the average viewer, Overwatch feels like American football if you remove the ball and the objective was to get your opponent's head into the sand. And you just see 60 people on the field just trying to one-up each other, and then the ref comes, 16 people from that team and 14 from that team got grass in their mouth. I guess that one team won. You have no way of following every single of these 15 fights going on, right? Yeah. But it's like, yeah, okay.
I guess that's sorry.
No, go ahead.
I guess that's another criticism. The 6v6 battle. I mean, it's hard to keep track of 6v6. So if you have map objectives, it could make things 4v4 or 3v3, which would be quite interesting to watch.
Yep.
Okay. Just because we started to talk about it a bit, we're going to jump into the APAC premiere. It started on the 6th, so it's been going on for a little while now. I think today is the quarterfinals. I thought I watched it, but apparently there are two different tournaments that are extremely similar, APAC and Apex, and actually looked on the comp sub too. People are getting them confused as well. So get better names for your tournaments, especially when they're both Asian tournaments. But from what I watched, as far as just the Asian scene in general, they love Ana. They love Genji, obviously. And I think us Westerners need to be a bit more prepared, because it's not like we're just going to go in here and just shit on all of the Asian teams, because these people will play day and night, you know, longer than 8 hours. These people are playing 12-hour, 16-hour days.
Yeah. It looks like it looks like Ana Genji is like the answer to Beyblade for maps and defenses that are more spread out, like Hoth scenarios. So the Beyblade that can teleport where it needs to and has a greater area of effect. So yeah, that's an interesting take on that.
I think there's also, it's important to point out that while it's, you know, even with both tournaments going out around, the skill disparity even within these Asian teams, and I would even, you know, separate the Korean ones from the others, but even with them the skill differences are huge. Like, you know, in the APAC tournament, like, NRG played against two Chinese teams, and these games were blowouts, man. Like, and then at the same time, there's Reunited getting dominated by a Korean team. It's quite obvious that there's a huge skill disparity, and we can't just lump in everything, you know, on this continent and say, okay, they're playing better Overwatch than us. Yeah. Well, obviously, like a barely top 10 I guess top 10 Western team dominates just the other type of the bracket, right? So I think really we again have to narrow it down to Koreans being pretty awesome already, which is scary. Like, I saw messages from some of the Western teams competing, even the ones we consider the best teams in our, like, obviously there's like 3 teams there from the West who were saying we are happy if we get a map, right? It's based on the scrim results we've had.
Yeah.
These people are insane. We're getting stomped here in scrims. And then again, I think Reinforce on Twitter for, you know, in 140 characters, as well as you can express what is happening. He said that they have been playing Protoss and Terran the entire time, while suddenly someone introduces Zerg to them, they just get, absolutely dominated. It's like a new type of game, and you actually see also, like, yes, the Beyblade strat is not a big thing. Reaper still might be, and they quite often give it to the Reaper while outside of Beyblade, and they just use the ultimate without the Ana boost quite often, right? To great effect. Mm-hmm. So even the Beyblade strat is not like that kind of revealed that is not, the truth right now, the way competitive Overwatch is meant to be played, so to speak. If you designed a computer program to play for you, probably wouldn't go the Ana boosted Reaper strat. Luckily, we have, computer programs that play the optimal way for us, and they have been doing that for 2 decades almost, and they're called Koreans in almost every other, relevant esport to them. So, dude, it's quite scary that they're already here.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, that's, while at the same time, Reunited kind of revitalized my hope. Dude, the comments I'm getting from these, like reading from these players, they are not looking good. And like insiders actually said, the game Reunited won was a 3-1. It was a close 3-1. That's an upset. It's actually a huge upset. Even though the team they're playing against really didn't have any, tournament representations, but they were a team, made up of the highest ranked solo queue letters, and like people are also already telling me that we're having the same issue as we have in League of Legends, where American and to a lesser extent European solo queue games are an absolute shit show in comparison to what the Korean competitive queue is like where if you were up there, it actually really means something, because these people aren't just goofing off to their viewers or something. they are getting there with paid salaries, and they are just trying their hardest to improve also on solo ladder, and then getting their mechanics up, right?
Yeah, that's the biggest thing that a lot of the esports scene has had a problem with, Americans at least, or NA players in general, is that a lot of the time it's streaming, goofing off, playing other games, that type of thing. And then the Koreans, or I'm going to lump it in, Asians in general, this is a job. This is sun up, they eat breakfast, they meet as a team, they play the game. They're not goofing off, having fun, being Overwatch pros. They're diligently playing and strategizing and doing all this stuff, where some of the American teams most likely do that and have done that. But there is still those little times where they're playing with a bunch of friends, or they're goofing off, or they're playing on alternate accounts and stuff like that. I think this tournament's kind of going to be a slap in the face for some teams.
Yeah.
Just like a wake up, oh, okay, we need to get back to the grind.
I really hope this also doesn't. There's already not as many people interested in the competitive scene. I mean, you can't really expect more for the time we've had the game, but at the same time, it's hard because apparently people want personalities in the esport. Now, if again faceless Koreans are dominating your sport and rendering your competition irrelevant, do you have to close off borders again? Do we sit then in our continents and feel good about ourselves because we're playing the world's best Overwatch until we get to these international tournaments where we just get absolutely ruffle stomped again? I don't know. It's also this argument of, oh yeah, we're very good at FPS. We have Swedish people. We have, all this FPS talent. Well, how did that work out? These people are one thing, even the most fundamental truth that we believe for these games, for instance, such as having a low sensitivity. There's people that in these tournaments that have insanely high sensitivity, and they're still rocking us. Like, you introduce these, or the argument always has been to use slower sensitivities because it's more reliable. They reliably play on high, right? Because they just put in the hours to perfect that, and then there's certain benefits you get simply in a game like Overwatch, which you don't get in CS as much. I don't know, man. Like, I really hope it doesn't kill off the fun people are having with Overwatch. Like, for instance, I think a substantial amount of viewers would lose the fun of watching Siegel if they lost the illusion that he wasn't like a top 3 player in the game.
Yeah, I know what you mean by that. I mean, that's the biggest thing is even, if we're just talking popularity contests, it's either you're super funny or you're super good. And that's what makes you popular on Twitch. And yes, Eagle's, a personable person. Obviously, he's, a popular streamer, but he's also fairly good at the characters that he plays. But once he's put up against people who, 16-hour days, nonstop, working with trainers and things like that, that it might, like you said, pull off the mask a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, and you can't really blame Siegel for that. If he's making a decent living off of that, man, more than decent, right? Like, why would he, change anything? He's still getting invited to these tournaments and everything. Yeah. Like from an economical standpoint, it's working perfectly for him right now. Mm-hmm. Right? Much better than he could have ever expected.
Yeah, but he's just going to have to become, if it's the case, obviously this is nothing set in stone, but if it does, give a little bit of a slap in the face and his team doesn't hold together and that type of thing, he's just going to have to just stay relevant as far as his personality goes. Because there's going to be, if this Asian scene continues, at least with the way that the tournament seems like it's going, there's going to be this big race to the top, and it's not going to be the streamers. It's not going to be the people trying to entertain people. It's going to be the people who are, focusing on the game and not trying to make money as far as entertaining goes.
Yeah, and I would actually say, like, to reference an earlier part of this show, like, I think one of the big strengths Siegel has is that he can play Overwatch to a very high level while talking like he was playing Hearthstone.
He's like, I'm a cutie pie, if you know who he is from League.
Yeah.
That guy is just like, yeah, man, like, I think I'm going to go and do this. And he just, like, wrecks the whole team while he's doing that. He's just a very monotone, chill talking guy, but he, plays like a goddamn robot.
Dude, I can't. Like, if I'm playing, and sometimes if I'm in DayZ and I encounter an opponent and I need to let my my friends know where the opponent is, I'm like, he's and then I try to aim and my brain can't do both at the same time.
Yes.
I don't know.
Yeah, that's why in, Overwatch and stuff, you shout just short, like, names, like house, left, things like that.
Yeah.
All right. As far as the APAC tournament goes, where are we in the brackets?
Good question. I haven't actually looked at that in a while.
Because day 13 we should be at, or day 13 or October 13th we should be at quarterfinals. But there are two best of 5 matches will be played each day, beginning at 1700 hours local time. And the quarterfinals, the quarterfinals 2 begin at 1900 hours. I think the brackets right now, spoilers obviously for anyone who really cares that much, is nope. Those are done.
Let's see.
This bracket doesn't even make any sense to me.
So,
group stages, Chinese qualifier, main event. I think the main event right now, playoffs, is NRG versus Lunatic High.
Yes.
And there's still, here we go. Yeah. And there's still Rogue versus A Freaks and All Strike versus NGA. So hopefully Rogue makes it through.
I mean, Lunatic High, like, okay,
Well, NRG and Rogue are the only two Western teams still in the frickin' tournament.
No. I think they were in the first place. Yes, they were the only ones of the other tournament is the one with 3 United.
Okay, yeah, that's still confusing me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The thing is, like, okay, chain logic doesn't work as much because of matchups and everything, and how like different strengths are in these teams. But I think it's quite fair to say that Lunatic High is in a very, very strong team. They, beat Rogue pretty handily, and now they're playing NRG, who admittedly weren't tested really. So, like, okay, chain logic doesn't work. I still think they are just going to, absolutely dominate NRG and look like, as a candidate for taking it all. And I think, if I remember correctly, that's quite insane because these are they are 16 years old or something. And high schoolers just styling on.
Hey man, people say that once you get past the late 20s that you're not an esports person anymore because your reaction time goes down, and so they're recruiting 16-year-old kids. I know Dota did that too, but I think that's a little bit bullshit because there's people in the Dota scene, they have old man fear and things like that.
I mean, there's still the currently best team in the world, according to some lists, is Virtus Pro, who has an average of 28 or 29. Some of their players are over 30. Okay, in that case, I guess it doesn't really hold up that much, right? There's also more than reaction time to gaming. It's not just we're sitting there who presses the red button first, but when it turns green, right? That's not what we're playing. So, yeah.
All right. Anything else you guys have to say as far as the tournament scene goes? Do we have anything I think we ask this question every week. Do we have anything else to look forward to as far as big tournaments go? Upcoming Overwatch events on Gosu is completely blank.
Yeah, it's okay. APAC, and then there's obviously BlizzCon.
Yeah.
And the thing is, I talked to some teams, and it's not looking good, man. First off, because of these tournaments in Asia, there's really no time to scrim, and I totally understand. Why would you scrim with your team now on shit ping while you're preparing, for one of these real tournaments for a company that actually pays you, right? So at the same time, man, I know Sweden is not scrimming until they get there. Same is true for Finland. I don't know about Germany. Germany even had a fallout where Burks can't attend because he didn't get the visa. It's oh, really, man? Nobody's taking this seriously. I want BlizzCon to be the best tournament of the year, and the production value would be there, and BlizzCon is the world championship for every other Blizzard title, and now it's yeah.
This scene has a lot of shit to figure out.
I also I'm just going to, for my own sanity, say this now. If a fucking team with a streamer beats some of these high-class teams after they fucking travel to Asia, Jack played out of their ass, and then someone tells me, well, maybe they aren't that far ahead, these streamers, there was some merit to inviting them. Fuck you, man. What? This is obviously not going to be an argument for this kind of format, even though there's potential for upsets because of the context that they aren't scrimming for this. It's just a fun event. You will see, even Sweden said, yeah, we're not taking this seriously. Even in the qualifier, when we realized that this would be an easy game, we should just style on our opponents, going fucking Torbjörn offensive, right? I hope the more we get to the final knockout stages, the tournament gets more serious. These players are, caught by their pride, and then we have some decent games there. Because that's all I ever wanted BlizzCon esports tournaments to be. like to be about, you know, the best player with that the entire year sort of, you know, culminates in this one explosion of awesome play.
Yeah. Maybe after BlizzCon, we're going to see some think tanks go on and players, you know, take what they learned from Asia, what they, you know, like if they get crapped on by, you know, teams at BlizzCon and they're like, we need to either ship off and go to some streamer house or not streamer house, like a gaming house and, you know, really huddle down and make a team and, you know, be here, do this day in and day out, 5 days a week or something like that. And, you know, really show the other countries and things like that how well we have developed, because it seems like this age. I don't know how long did they released at the same time, right? In the Asian countries.
Yes.
So it's only recently that we're seeing them, but they've been playing this whole time.
Yes, and at the same time, I don't think they had beta access as widespread among these. I think our pro players have been playing Overwatch for a significant more time than the current Korean teams have, for instance.
Yeah. So for them to come out of the gate like this is, not that I'm a pro player, but, you know, as a analyst, I guess I'll assume that title is they need to buckle down. They need to, you know, fight for their position, because you can't always be on top. And even though people argued this in the beginning, like, oh, these teams are going to be shit and they're going to be nowhere. No, these teams are still good. It's just they've kind of gotten stale playing the same teams over and over and over again, playing the same team comps. They kind of needed this slap in the face, but they need to take it and learn from it.
Yep.
Alrighty. I think we're going to cut it off there. I hope you guys enjoyed what we talked about this week. If you guys have any comments, you know, on the Halloween stuff, on the BlizzCon events, if you guys hope to see any different heroes, maybe Doomfist gets announced, any type of game modes, tell me what your favorite skin is for Halloween. Any type of Discord that we can get going on in the comments down below is always wonderful. We're always paying attention, and you know, we're willing to talk with you guys down there. Make sure you guys hit that sub button and follow us on Twitter to know when we go live on Twitch, because we would like to see people in chat also, so we can interact with you guys live. Other than that, I hope you guys had a good week, and we'll see you next week for another show. Have a good day.